And he found out that during the process that what he does, they take the ink from the chilazon, or from their proposed chilazon, they heat it up at high temperatures, and then they add iron filings. Essentially what this does is that the high temperature kills any organic material that's in the dye stuff, and then basically the ink from the cuttlefish just supplies I believe the nitrogen or the oxygen, so that when it in chemistry, it'll all mold together with the iron filings and produce a blue color. Now, some people will say that I've seen a lot of things on the internet that'll argue against it, and that are definitely for the Rebbe of Radzin's Techelet. And I always thought it was interesting. How do they try to get around that? They oftentimes say that the additives in the Techelet were only supposed, it doesn't necessarily have to be not help, create the color, but it's widely known from Talmud and even from the Rebbe of Radzin itself that the Techelet, the color, can only come from the blood of the chilazon or the dye of the chilazon, and not for anything added to it. The only things that can be added to it are things that help adhere it to the wool of the tzitzit when they dye it. I will quote another little tidbit from the Rebbe of Radzin from one of his books called Sifrei Techelet, pt.2, on page 168. The Rebbe of Radzin himself understood that the color of Techelet had to come from the dye of the chilazon exclusively and not from any other additives. And I quote, "And with the help of God, it has come to my hands to extract the blood of the cuttlefish, which is black as ink, the color of Techelet in a manner which affects the color other than the blood of the chilazon. And the chemical additives are colorless and only work to extract the color from the blood." Therefore, in his own words, the Rebbe of Radzin admits and says that the Techelet can only come from the chilazon and doesn't come from the color, from the additives. Unfortunately, without a knowledge of that process, it seems that by adding the iron filings that you're not doing anything to the color because they're colorless. However, during the chemistry process here, the molecules combine and then create the color. Another thing that why the Radzin dye doesn't particularly qualify as Techelet, and why that the Murex trunculus that just strengthens it, I think, to my opinion, that this is the biggest proof in support of the Murex trunculus now, and for the pt.2 organization, is that in quote, most of the information I use is coming from the pt.2 organization's website on the www.techelet.com website. And from that website, I found that in the Gemara in Baba Metzia 61 teaches that Techelet is identical in color to the forgery dye Kela Ilan, known as indigo, same stuff used in Levi's blue jeans, which I mentioned before. The Radzin dye doesn't resemble indigo whatsoever, and is easily distinguished from indigo. The dye from the Murex stale is indigo. Exactly. It's indistinguishable by the eye, and it is actually molecularly the same. The molecules are exactly the same. There's just one difference, is that the Murex dye is permanent and doesn't fade, like Kela Ilan does. And as far as I remember, I do believe that the Radzin dye does fade as well. So that's the thing. A couple things is that it, let me try to recap because I've been going all over the place. Techelet doesn't have, the reason that it was said that it can only be from the chilazon is because there were only two sources of the color known at that time in most of history, which was the chilazon and the plant, the indigo plant, or Kela Ilan. The reason why only the chilazon was the kosher source is because it was, didn't fade. It stayed. You could wash it, it would stay, wouldn't matter. But Kela Ilan would, over time, it's obvious that it would fade. So therefore, as long as we have another source that doesn't fade and is the same color, then it's obviously kosher to use, whether it could be the ancient chilazon or not. What we need to know is whether or not the color that we're using is kosher for the mitzvah. The second thing is whether or not that which one's kosher. What are the pluses and the minuses? The Murex one produces an indigo color because in the Rambam identifies the Kela Ilan, the exact copy of the kosher Techelet, to be indigo. Indigo and the Murex dye is exactly the same, and it's molecularly equivalent. Whereas that the dye from the Radzin Rebbe isn't. So therefore, one would wonder whether or not we're if we're using Techelet on our tzitzit, whether it would invalidate the tzitzit, or if that Murex snail isn't the Techelet, would it invalidate the tzitzit. If you're using the Murex Techelet, then it's not going to invalidate your tzitzit, because even according to the Rebbe of Radzin, as long as it's a source of Techelet, same color, doesn't fade, it's going to be kosher for the use of the mitzvah. So you're definitely fulfilling the mitzvah of Techelet. However, he was unaware of, he didn't know about the process. He didn't realize what the Italian chemist did and the chemistry behind it. Therefore, he couldn't say. He thought that it didn't have, the iron filings weren't doing anything to adding to the color. That's the big thing. And I just wanted to show you a couple examples of Techelet. I personally wear the different kinds of Techelet. Not the different kinds, I wear one kind. But I would mainly like to, show you the kind that I'm using. Let me try. I was doing some stuff on my computer. Let's see if hopefully this will work. I'm going to show you my tzitzit. Now I'm wearing pajama pants, so don't laugh at me too much. But the tzitzit that I'm wearing was dyed with the Murex trunculus. Let me get a hand on the blue string. I have them tied according to the Yemenite tradition that uses Rambam's method of tiling. And here's my talit gadol that as well are dyed with Murex and tied in the Rambam fashion. I'll give you an up-close look. So, in short, I'd like to end with, I really think that it's a very honorable thing for people to want to do this mitzvah. It's a very important mitzvah, and it's a sign that the end times, that Mashiach, the rebuilding of our temple, is close. I can't remember the source, but I know that it was said that the discoverance of the Chilazon is a sign of the coming of Mashiach. So in short, I think it's a very honorable thing. I really encourage you guys to do your own research. I definitely encourage the use of this mitzvah. I encourage you to visit the Techelet organization's website, www.techelet.com, Tekhelet, and look at their information. They even have instructions on how to tie tzitzit in all the different kinds of ways. And I'll probably show you a way. Hopefully I'll put it up on this side of the screen here, showing you the different ways of tying with Techelet that I took a picture from the pt.2's website. But you have to, when you start going into this research, you have to figure out which one's right. You have to know that it's an important mitzvah, so you have to be careful. Do you use the Techelet from the Murex snail, or do you use the Techelet from the cuttlefish? Is the Murex snail's Techelet kosher? Is the cuttlefish's Techelet kosher? Does the Techelet from the cuttlefish, is it important that the color come from the chilazon itself or come from the additives? Hopefully I explained that the color has to come from the chilazon itself. The color can't fade, and I believe very strongly that the Murex snail's Techelet fits all these descriptions. And in fact, what even helps it is the fact that it's chemically identical, molecularly identical to indigo, the counterfeit Techelet that was mentioned in the Talmud. I would very much appreciate you guys' comments. Once again, I apologize. I'm not the most orally talented person when it comes to talking speeches and stuff like that, but I have a feeling that I want to share my knowledge and the things that I learned. So I hope that I've been helpful. I would appreciate if you guys left some comments. Thank you very much. Have any comments, any suggestions, any other topics you want me to talk about at all on Orthodox Judaism, on anything you could think of? I'd be more than happy to try to help. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you next time.